Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Productions channel here at YouTube, and welcome to, of course, another Friday review. Today I am reviewing the second full-length album from what seems to be everybody's favorite epic heavy metal band, Eternal Champion, which of course was, though firstly digitally through, of course, the band's Bandcamp page on November 6th, and of course No Remorse Records handling the physical copies on, of course, on depending on either Discogs or Metal Archives, it's either November 18th or November 20th. But I'm gonna at least stick with November 20th for at least most of the physical copies anyways, so there you go. So, and of course this is their follow-up to their highly acclaimed 2016 debut album, The Armor of Ire. Which, I mean, how so critically acclaimed? Well, because of when that album was released. Since then, it's why everybody on debating every time I go to any forum and where everyone's talking about epic metal, it seems like Eternal Champion is always going to come up. Everyone, again, and just mentioning the Armor of Ire, everyone just seems to really just jumped on this bandwagon of course, for Eternal Champion. And again, it all seemed to have, I mean, while there definitely were some demos, I mean, the band is based out of Austin, Texas, and of course were formed in 2012, but and released at least at least a demo and so on, and a single in 2015. But it just seems to have all of this acclaimed coverage and everything, and then just everyone just seems really jumping on this Eternal Champion bandwagon. All seem to just came out of their 2016 debut album, The Armor of Ire. And I'll get into my thoughts and everything on this band as I get into the review. So in many ways, I guess that's where we finally will just transition into it. So here we go. Here is, of course, Ravening Iron from Eternal Champion. So, of course, before I really get into any of my thoughts on the album, let's let me do a track listing rundown. It, of course, consists of 8 songs. It all clocks in at 37 minutes and 18 seconds. So, these 8 songs, of course, are A Face in the Glare, Ravening Iron being, of course, the title track, Skull Seeker, War at the Edge of the End, Coward's Keep, Worms of the Earth, The Godblade, which is the album's sole instrumental, and of course ends with Banners of Arai. So there is your 8 songs there. Now, let's get into some of my thoughts, at least also on Eternal Champion as well. I mean, since I mentioned how that their debut 2016 album, The Armor of Ire, was definitely highly acclaimed, it truly was. Because like I've stated, and I briefly talked about it in the intro, is that every forum I would go to, especially I'm going to one of the forums as well, which right now is escaping my mind, but I might end up typing it in anyways in the video. But still, there's like everywhere, there's a part of it, a topic where it's just completely dedicated to, of course, Eternal Champion, or even just epic metal. And again, Eternal Champion, again, being a still relatively new band, they're just absolutely getting, again, everyone has just jumped on this band. I mean, as far as when it comes to bands these days, especially the new wave or traditional heavy metal movement, there's only a few couple bands that I really can think of that have just, where the, as far as when it comes to the popular reaction, or at least the, I don't know, I'm trying to find the best word, but just raving, where everyone is just raved about, and just everyone is just completely oohing and on over. The only 2 bands I can think of is like Night Demon and Savage Master, and Eternal Champion seems to be in the same category, where they're just completely going batshit nuts for this band. And it just all spanned out of the Armor of Ire album. And now, when I go onto Bandcamp, it was always would be in my recommendations. And of course, whenever by the years go by, again, there's just so much. Again, the talk about Eternal Champion just rises higher and higher and higher. And so every time the Armor of Ire would end up in my band recommendations, on Bandcamp, I would definitely end up clicking. I mean, the artwork, it's got that epic heavy metal feel. Definitely also at times very similar to, of course, even Manowar. And I would click on it, and I would have it play. And again, I thought it was a decent record, but with all of this raving and all of this highly acclaimed thoughts about this band, just how people were just reacting towards this band, where they just almost thought like it's like rather godlike, and just hearing all of this, all of these opinions and just reactions, just how everyone's just talking about, oh, how so great they are. It made me feel like maybe I might have been missing something, because every time I would play that record, at least would have it on in the background. Again, it's to really briefly talk about the opening song for that album. I swear that that riff is obviously taken straight from at least the middle portion for the song Evil Reign from Hellstar, which is off of Remnants of War. It's like they took that main middle riff and basically made a whole song about it, constructed a whole song just around that one riff that only plays for at least at least 50 seconds or so, or a second or so, in Evil Reign off of Remnants of War. And it's a cool riff, but they milked that entire riff, it seems like, throughout that whole entire song. And as far as the other songs on the album, again, it's good, but maybe I was missing something about Eternal Champion with that album. Maybe I'm missing something. I mean, again, I should really like it, but something just wasn't clicking with me. So pretty much a year's gone by, and it's like, okay, still everyone's talking about how great Eternal Champion are still. And of course, you go on the Banger TV, there's this one reviewer there that seems to really, that again, still really praises the hell out of Eternal Champion. And I'm like, is there something I'm missing? And so when news gets broke out again that the band are releasing their follow-up to, of course, the Armor of Ire, and the album is titled Ravening Iron, again, you get all the hype and the praises and like all the expectations. Like, is this album gonna deliver? Is it gonna be as good as the Armor of Ire? You get all of this, and I'm on the other fence of here. I'm like, is it? Because again, am I missing something? I hate to say it, but am I missing something? So, of course, there's some controversy, of course, about the artwork, which I'll briefly talk about towards the end of this review. Still, when it comes to artwork, since it does deserve some mention. Still, though, I know it's going to stretch this review out a little bit longer, but just bear with me, okay? Bear with me. I hope you have a beverage with you. So, still, it gets released in there, and I believe the song Ravening Iron, it might have been, that was then used as a lead single for it, and I checked out the track, and I thought it was fine, but it didn't really completely click with me as much at first listen. Eventually I'll talk about it, because of, I think, as when I really get into the album itself, I'll definitely end up, my mind will definitely change there. So, yeah, I'm hinting. Alright, so again, it gets released, and so finally the album is released, and I go on to the forum and so on that I go to, where everyone's got a thread that's dedicated to this album. And again, I'm seeing some, again, here and there, some good coverage for this album. Everyone's talking pretty good about the sound, but once again, how I felt towards the Armor of Ire, I'm just like, is there something I'm missing? Could this album be the album that actually does something for me with this band? Is it really going to change my mind? And so, when the day comes, and when it comes around to me, because again, I've been, I always schedule out my reviews, so when it finally came around, I decided to give the album a listen, and just at first listen with a song like A Face in the Glare, it clicked. something about, and that's where again, and after listening to this album, I would go back and listen to, of course, The Armor of Ire, and then I would go back and listen to this one again, because I like to give these albums at least a couple more listens before I really start getting in front of the camera, or at least in front of the microphone, and actually cut a review. And of course, I write my stuff down, you know, all my thoughts where I can add into this review. And as I would go back and forth listening to both these two albums all at once, I've come to the conclusion that I think Ravening Iron might have just changed my mind about Eternal Champion. There's something with this album that works more for me than compared to The Armor of Ire, which something there I thought was missing. And again, with all of the praise and all of the glorification that the Eternal Champion was getting, with a lot of the underground metalheads that even also followed all the retro heavy metal bands, the new wave or traditional heavy metal bands, and so on, I just didn't see a lot of the praise. But with this album, I'm able to kind of at least see why there's at least a following towards this band. Because again, just from the beginning notes for, of course, A Face in the Gutter, which I'll eventually get into, oh my god, this to me was like, this is it. This is actually a very good song. It's got some cool riffs and so on. So I guess in many ways I'll segue into some of the songs, but I will definitely just point out each of this album flows great for me, and that's why I'll then talk about the title track, which I believe it was. Correct me, of course. You can correct me in the comments section if it was not Ravening Iron that wasn't the lead single, or at least music video for off this album, at least a song off this album. But still, it's something about this album just clicked with me then compared to The Armor of Ire, which for some reason didn't really click with me, but this album does. So let's get into, of course, the songs here. So that's where we'll find this again. Let me definitely stay on the topic for, of course, the opening song, which is A Face in the Glare. Which again, it begins with the sounds of iron clanging. Again, very reminiscent of how Metal on Metal from Anvil starts out. I mean, you know, with all the anvil completely getting smashed on with whatever they're using, basically that. But instead of just chomping on, or at least just smashing on the anvil, it's instead what's being, I think, forged on here is a sword. So again, very metal and fits the theme of Eternal Champion. So after this whole entire very cool, again, very Anvil-esque intro, we then finally get our taste of at least the band itself and the song. And it's the sounds of just clashing heavy metal. It's a very cool song. They're just a great heavy riffs, and the band definitely sounds absolutely intriguing with this song. They definitely sound convincing. There's a lot of conviction being played with this song, and this is where again I begin to actually feel at least whatever I was missing from Eternal Champion. I'm starting to actually feel it this time. Something again, there's just something with this song that just made me that dragged me in, that made me, okay, this time I might be able to get behind Eternal Champion. This was a good opening song, and it's a great song. But that's when, of course, we then get into the title track, which follows next. And again, it's the Undying Evil from Beyond S title track, basically. That's what I'm kind of comparing it to. Still though, it's a quite anthemic track. Not a bad note found in the song. Again, whatever I felt about the song before hearing the album, because again, feeling it as a lead single, I don't think a song like this is probably I don't think it would have been my choice for a lead single. Again, something like Face in the Glare, or as I'll get further, maybe Coward's Keep or War at the Edge of the End, maybe I think would have been better lead single than the title track, which again, it's a good song. I think it fits for the album. It keeps the album flowing. But as far as a lead single, I don't think it works good as a lead single, but that's just my personal opinion. But again, it's got that great anthemic track with them galloping riffs, twin guitars and so on, very reminiscent to at times Iron Maiden or Thin Lizzy, or at times, of course, Enforcer. It's got all that kind of feel, and it works to its advantage. So I think it's a good song for sure, in my opinion. And of course, what comes next is Soul Seeker, which brings back the heaviness here. It's a slower kind of track that has a riff that is as heavy as a ton of bricks. Just a good song. Also, plenty of tempo changes here and there, all being accompanied by heavy riffs. It's a great track nonetheless, and one of my personal highlights off this album as well, and it's a cool song. But up next is War at the End of the End, which raises the tempo here again. It's an anthemic galloping track with catchy hooks and great guitar solos as well. It's a good song, so nothing to complain about that. Finally, we now get to Coward's Keep, which is one of my personal favorite songs off this album, which again, it starts rather Brian May-like, with of course with just that guitar intro, which again makes me think of like A Day at the Races from Queen for some reason. Again, that very Brian May-esque very intro, at times even very similar to the longer version of Free Will Burning from Judas Priest kind of starts that kind of way. Again, very epic feel, very way just building towards a good run, and oh my god, does this build towards, because again, after that, we then are just given another heavy as a shit ton of iron riffs with this song. Again, I've stated, this is one of my personal favorite songs off the album. I think it absolutely kills with this song. I think this is definitely Eternal Champion really finding their soul, finding their sound with this song. They're just able to really unleash whatever I thought about the Armor of Iron, whatever is missing, everything is just brought into place here. Those missing pieces are finally getting to be filled with this, and just this song alone, it fills a lot of the pieces that I felt that was missing from their debut album. It's a good fucking song. So definitely one of my big highlights off this album. Then of course, following the stone cling banger of course Coward's Escape is of course Worms of the Earth, which begins where Coward's Keep leaves off with that somber acoustic guitar piece, to then giving us another galloping banger that sports some heavy riffs, even bordering on thrash at times. This is a good song too, just a great fucking track. And of course, we now get our first instrumental in the Godblade, which again, which for the most part is a synth-based atmospheric track that lasts about 2 minutes and 17 seconds. It's a cool instrumental that then of course segues into the final song on the album, which is Banners of Arai, which is a slow, heavy song, very at times reminding me a little bit of Anvil in some ways, but of course the best comparisons is also Manila Road, which is by it seems to be the most typical comparison when it comes to a lot of people that praise Eternal Champion. They always compare Eternal Champion to Manila Road, and I can see that from what I've heard of course, of Manila Road. I know stuttering a little bit there. Still, whatever I heard from them, I definitely can see some comparisons for sure. It's definitely there. And with this song, you definitely can get the comparisons. But again, the fucking riffs, that would smash a Earth-sized habitat. It's a good song, and it's a good way to really end the album. So, and of course, it's just there's just nothing bad on this album for me. Finally, though, after talking very good about the songs, I briefly touched about the artwork, which again caused some controversy. Finally, let's get into this controversy. I mean, the artwork for the Armor of Iron, which I'm going to go on to Metal Archives here. I'm already on here, and I'm going to look up name the artist here, because it's a different artist. The artist, of course, for this album was Adam Burke, who's done plenty of artwork for a lot of bands, including like Spell, for example, okay? Including Spell and Angel Witch. He did the artwork for the Armor of Iron. On Ravening Iron, Eternal Champion was able to actually hire, or at least was able to get Ken Kelly, the famous artist Ken Kelly, who was best known for, of course, doing the artwork for plenty of bands, including Kiss with Destroy and Love Gun, and of course Richie Blackmore with Rainbows Rising. And he, of course, doing plenty of artwork for Conan the Barbarian, of course, being at least related to, of course, Frank Frazetta's wife, which Frank Frazetta being best known for, of course, Conan the Barbarian, and drawing a lot of those classic pieces that bands like Molly Hatchet would use. So Eternal Champion gets Ken Kelly, and when it came to this artwork, there was a lot of controversy. Everybody was up in arms for, of course. I mean, I had to censor the artwork, of course, just because I like them. I want to play things safe with YouTube because of, again, even though I've stated that my videos are not for kids to begin with, because I have to at least abide by those rules that YouTube at least have to give at least most of us that are at least on this platform. But again, I had to at least abide by some of those rules, so I did that as a scene. But the thing is, everyone is either, again, or there's some people saying, oh, how sexist this is, or even some people talking about how weird that the woman that our very voluptuous goddess on the that's of course on the pedestal there of the or her altar with, of course, the dragon behind, she seems to have this other woman that's actually at least chained. But the thing is, there's no arms on this other lady, the one that you can see that's on the bottom there of the artwork. That obviously is everyone have stated she could be changed and her arms are behind, but the thing is, it's so thin like that. It seems like, did Ken Kelly forget the drawn arms for this lady? Because it just seems so unrealistic. It's really kind of weird and it's quirky, but the thing is, for all of this controversy, did it really deserve any of this controversy? Yeah, it's weird, and as far as the artwork, yeah, it can seem almost some of the thing is, it's not a manly person that's chaining up a female here, but instead it's, I guess in many ways it might be more close to at least female empowerment in some ways. So I guess that there's at least a little of a check there. It's at least a good check mark there. It's like, all right, check. So that's fine and all, but the thing is, again, everyone's just up in arms with this, just that, oh geez, she's nude, and oh gee, there's just too many boobs, so on. And it's just whatever. But at the same time, though, the controversy also towards the other basically braless female that's being chained apparently has no arms. And which, in many ways, if you look at pictures of actual people who are at least especially, let's say, handcuffed and got their hands behind their back handcuffed, you can tell there's at least might be some shoulders there that will give you the idea that there might be behind her back. But again, with just this one lady who is, of course, supposedly is chained, and due to, of course, the will of the other, our voluptuous goddess that is, controlling this other female there, it just seems like there's not very many indications if her arms are actually. But again, this caused a whole bunch of controversy, and for good reason, I don't know. But still, I just had to at least talk at least a little bit about it. It's just crazy. So there you go. There is, of course, Ravening Iron from Eternal Champion. Let me turn the page here because I got my score written down here. Once again, I'm going to repeat it again. Whatever I felt towards the Armor of Ire, I felt was rectified with Ravening Iron. And as far as my rating, when I went into this album, I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. And just because of how I didn't expect to like it as much, it's also resulted in the score, which is probably the highest I'm going to give this, at least maybe an Eternal Champion album. But again, this could mark a change in this band for me. But I'm giving it a 9.35 out of 10. I think it's a high score for sure. But again, I didn't expect to like this album as much as I should had. But I did, and it made me, I think in many ways, it's probably changed my mind on Eternal Champion. I think it's a solid album from these guys. I think they really delivered a pretty good heavy metal record for sure in this time of decade, or at least the beginning of this decade. I think they really delivered. In many ways, I think this is definitely, at times I feel, is a better album than their debut. And so from here, if this is a good progression, I'm really looking forward to whatever they do along the road with their follow-up albums, because I think this is, again, I was surprised how solid this album is. So there you go. Again, it's been out since, of course, November 6th and, of course, November 18th or 20th. I know everyone is probably at this point have heard it. And so with that, I hope in many ways, I am very curious. I was going to go into my ending outro, which is not ready yet. I want to get this stuff in. But, so, back to this. I'm definitely curious on what your guys' thoughts on this album. Do you think it's a good record, or do you think it's not as good as The Armor of Fire? Again, what are your personal opinions on this album? But if you haven't heard this album, again, I'm going to be leaving a link to, of course, their Bandcamp page for sure for you to check the album out, because I think it's definitely worth listening to. So there you go. I hope y'all enjoyed this heavy thrash. I'd say I'm out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.